Hello, this is Emily Wright, Tech Editor and Head of Special Projects at Estates Gazette. And today I'm so excited because we're joined by Sandeep Davé, Chief Digital and Technology Officer at CBRE. And for anyone who doesn't know, and anyone watching this really should know, it's really brilliant that we've got you here speaking, because this is a new role, one that you've taken up just this month after being at CBRE for several years now. But what a big role to take on, particularly now. So we're going to talk about that, but before we do, I want to find out how you are, where you are, and how things are going.
Well, pleasure to be here. And first of all, congratulations on pulling together such an amazing event, despite the circumstances. I'm doing quite well, thank you for asking. I live in Dallas, Texas, and Texas, as you know, is probably on the wrong side of the count. So I'm hopeful that as a society, we'll be able to turn the situation around quickly. And in terms of just the lockdown affecting me personally, actually, I'm fairly fortunate that my immediate network of family and friends are fairly safe and healthy, so I feel good about that.
Excellent. Yes, no, it is. Must be a very interesting time to be in Texas at the moment. Lots of the people who've been speaking to you have either been in London or New York or San Francisco, and I know that Texas is still having a bit of a tough time. So is everybody sparing up okay there at the moment?
Yeah, you know, people have, I think overall, this is an amazing story of resilience. People have responded amazingly. One fine day, our entire organization shifted from 100,000 employees working in offices to predominantly most of them being remote. And they have not only responded positively, they've not only adapted, but on all counts, they're thriving. If we look at our productivity metrics, they're higher than ever before. And then a shout out to many of our on-field teams, building engineers, mobile technicians that do location-specific work that is vital and mission critical, and they're out there doing that work every day. So just a shout out to them.
Thank you very much. I want to talk to you about the role that you've taken on. And to do that, just for anybody that needs to familiarise themselves, it would be great to get an idea of what you were doing previously and then how this has all come about. It is an extraordinary time to take on, you know, that Chief Digital Technology Officer role, not least at a huge global company like CBRE. So, I mean, how does that feel for you at the moment?
Yeah, well, extraordinary and unprecedented times indeed. I feel that it's both a tremendous opportunity and challenge. And as you mentioned before, I've been with CBRE now for 3.5 years. And a few years ago, the executive team at CBRE recognized the massive impact and opportunity on account of digital trends. And they sought to infuse digital talent in the organization. So I've been part of that leadership team now for 3.5 years, and we're in the midst of a transformation. Now, all of a sudden, the trends that we were seeing back then have been massively accelerated. And so I feel fortunate and humbled to be in a position where I can help CBRE and our clients with their most pressing problems, such as continuity of operations, such as safe return to work, improved health and safety. And as you mentioned, technology is on the top of the agenda at this time.
And that, having it put at the top of the agenda like that, I mean, the hope is that that will spark a long-term approach to technology that we were seeing, and you mentioned acceleration. We were seeing, and we were seeing quite significant, you know, bounds forward with that. And obviously what has happened has accelerated that in the short space of time, well, it seems like forever though, doesn't it, since this all happened, in the short space of time that we've all been in this lockdown situation. Are you hopeful that it will stick with people now, and that need for technology, digital transformation, innovation is going to be much more ingrained in the sector?
Yeah, well, for sure, right? I think, well, first of all, I'm fairly confident that this is going to serve as a massive acceleration point in terms of digital adoption. And we are already seeing that acutely in certain areas where the need for technology to enable the new normal is significantly enhanced. I think there's always a risk that people, once the clouds clear, return back to old ways of working. but I do think that this is going to be a distinct before and after moment where we see a massive acceleration of digital technology adoption.
I'm really interested to find out how you think that will manifest itself. We're going to come in a minute. I'm really interested to hear some of your broader thoughts on real estate and real estate technology and how the sector is evolving and adopting, because you have the benefit of having seen how other sectors have adapted, notably the finance sector, which is where you were before you joined CBRE. So I'm really interested in a minute to find out how you think real estate compares, but I can't ignore that great point you just made about this not just being a sort of a short-term acceleration, but being a long-term acceleration. I'd love to know how you think we will see that manifest itself.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, I think the comparison to other sectors, right? So I spent several years in high tech and telecom when they were going through a massive transformation, and they've gone through waves of transformation. Then I spent several years in financial services where they saw massive changes on account of digital trends and digital business models, and now in commercial real estate. Commercial real estate potentially may have been a laggard, but over the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen a significant acceleration in technology adoption. And then as I compare to my financial services days, and as I think about how the industry and how the companies responded, I think broadly there are probably two models. One model is where companies have responded by setting up venture arms in the valley, setting up innovation labs, keeping them separate very intentionally from the core business, so that they don't get encumbered by the legacy way of working. And they've gone on to declare themselves as technology companies, just that they happen to be operating in a particular sector. While this approach, I believe, provides a massive profile boost, gets themselves immediately plugged into the innovation ecosystem, I think it does little to transform the core business. The other approach that I've seen is to really infuse digital and data in the core business, really reimagining how we do things. I think that is a harder and a riskier path, but one with a greater payoff. And that's an approach that CBRE has decisively chosen. And if you look at real estate, clearly, as we look at trends around robotic process automation, machine learning, 3D visualization, all of these provide us an opportunity to reimagine and do things that we do today, but do it differently. The other area, before I stop talking, is data. In all of these industries, there's a massive recognition that data is the new oil. But also, back to my financial services days, I remember one of the financial services CEOs tell me, big data, where's the big value? And there again, I've seen an approach where people have said, listen, let's pull a data lake together, let's push all our data in there, and let's try and fish. And often that, again, gives an impression of a lot of use cases bubbling up, but not impacting the core business. Whereas the approach that we've taken is to really start use case backed, set up a massive foundation in terms of capturing all our structured data, and then really deriving value out of it.
And how are you, I mean, this is an unfair question in one way, because this is a new role, but you have been, as you say, part of the senior leadership team in a similar technological role for 3.5 years. How are you finding that approach that you're talking about, sort of, traveling out across the company, because it is such an important process, really, to be sort of, for everybody as much as possible, of course, to move along at the same rate and the same time. And I'm wondering how you found that, both pre and now during the pandemic, and whether you've seen a lot more of a wave of support, or whether it was already there in the first instance. Of course, I know CBRE is very forward thinking.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what I would say is that we're in the midst of a transformation anyway. And we've got sort of a structure in place to execute that transformation. So we are heavily focused on our talent mix. We've completely migrated from SDLC to Agile. We've super focused on strengthening our security posture. And we are focused on developing products that not only enhance our service delivery, but also support our professionals at point of sale. I also touched a little bit on our data journey. So all of that continues. And while I was running all of that for my line of business, now I'm thinking about it cross CBRE. Purely from what is the difference from a before and after, I think clearly there's a focus on a specific few things, right? So we just finished a survey of 126 global real estate professionals, and they clearly articulated a certain set of priorities. And those priorities are around safe return to work. 70% of them said that they are expecting to provide some kind of a flexible working arrangement to their employees. A majority of them also said that they do not expect the physical workspace to be any less important than before. And so those things highlight the need for safe re-entry. And we have a few products such as our employee experience product Host, which before was all about employee experience and was a nice to have. We were working with some of our forward-leaning customers to think about employee experience, and now that has been completely pivoted to a safe return to work. And I believe that those kind of things will see acceleration in the near term. The other trend that we are seeing, 80% of the real estate executives highlighted the need to explore portfolio optimization. And so if you combine both of those trends, occupancy, having insight into occupancy in real time to enable safe return to work, and then trends over time to analyze and right size your portfolio, again becomes super critical. And those are trends that we'll see massive acceleration in the.
Thank you very much. I know you've touched on a few things which I think give a really good overview as to what the key focus points are going forward, and why they're key focus points. And beyond the safe return to work, which is obviously so crucial at the moment and something that everybody is desperately scrambling to try and get right, are there any other thoughts that you've got, or any other sort of points in your strategy which are looking ahead to other trends that you think you might see emerging? I know you touched on some of them, but I'd just be interested to see if there are any others, and if you could go into a bit more detail on those.
One of the things that our occupier clients have been obsessively focused on, even pre-COVID, is high quality service delivery at a low cost, right? And now if you look at the current environment, the demands on the service delivery are going up. Increased frequency of cleaning, for example, or higher safety standards while you're doing that. At the same time, the current environment is putting extreme pressures on cost, right? So these are different, opposite forces. And so therefore technology has a key role to play in enabling that new normal. And so therefore some of the things that we were looking at before, which is the ability to remote diagnose, the ability to drive predictive analytics, the ability to drive comfort and leverage data in driving some of those insights, leveraging data to drive efficiency in how we run operations and lowering our costs becomes super critical, right? So as we move from the most immediate and pressing needs around return to work, occupancy tracking, portfolio optimization, I think that those two areas around how do we leverage technology to improve service quality, drive efficiency, and also the use of data in enabling that is going to be super critical.
How far do you think real estate has come since you joined CBRE, and how far do you think there is still to go? And do you think it's fair that the industry is often, pulled up for being a little bit slow to adopt?
The last 5 years, we've seen massive acceleration, and we've also seen massive acceleration coupled with all the symptoms that that you see in other sectors, right? You see for example, in financial services, we saw a massive fintech ecosystem starting to build up. We saw massive volumes of venture investment starting to flow in the fintech sector. Very similar story in commercial real estate. Massive ecosystem of prop tech or CRE tech, whatever we choose to call it. massive infusion of capital, I believe 12, $13 billion over the last trailing 12 months, and 60, almost 60% CAGR over the last 5 years, right? So there is no doubt that there is a focus on technology and enablement of technology in the real estate sector. At the same time, if you look at some of the large players in the market, whether those are investors of real estate or whether those service providers like us, big focus, substantial increase in technology spend, um, uh, and a real recognition that technology is critical to client outcomes. But as we look forward and as we look at acceleration of technology through AI, IoT, I think we are only scratching the surface as it comes to some of those trends.
And do you think the real estate sector is prepared to dig deep and to go beyond scratching that surface?
I would say yes and no. Clearly, everyone that I've spoken to, many of our clients that we've spoken to, are constantly asking those questions, which is that, hey, listen, how is the how are smart buildings going to look? How is the facilities management model of the future going to look like? At the same time, we've got a very pragmatic and seasoned set of executives that are balancing value realization from the cost. And I don't think in some cases we are quite there yet. But there are green shoots that we are definitely starting to see, whether we look at the reduction of the cost of IoT and sensors, and therefore the ability for us to light up a building and have a digital twin that talks to us and gives us phenomenal amounts of data. Similarly, our ability to capture all of that phenomenal amounts of data and make sense out of it, and the cost of us being able to do that, or the infusion of talent in the industry for us to be able to do that has changed. So there are clearly examples of, I think we are at the cusp of something, that next phase of maturity.
Thank you very much. I want to pick up on one thing you said there, which is, what would your message be to, the people in real estate who are balancing that, the digital side of things with the value proposition side of things? How would you speak to them if you could, in isolation?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think I would be one of those pragmatic executives who would constantly ask the question saying, listen, there is a risk, and I've seen this risk in the past before, where there is a pursuit of a shiny object. And there have been a lot of times where people have said, hey, listen, let's do something innovative. Let's do something in the blockchain. And the question has always been, well, what is the use case that we are trying to solve? And if you start with the use case, if you start with value, then you really get to a point where you get to the right outcome, you get to the right use case. And so my message, both to technologies and real estate executives, would be perhaps the same, which is that what is the most pressing problem that we are trying to solve? Whether it is efficiency, whether it is client insights, whether it is enabling a new normal in the current environment, and then how can we leverage technology to solve for that?
I've got a couple more questions for you. We have a few minutes left. The first one is how you want to characterize the role that you're in at the moment. That's a bit of a sort of a left field question that I'm springing on you, so I apologize. But I'd be really interested to know, what's your approach? What's your how would you define your strategy and your way of approaching what you do, and how is it that you want to be seen in this role?
Yeah, and I touched on a couple of different strategies that that companies have adopted earlier, right? Where some have taken a very, hey, we are a technology company, we only happen to be in this sector. And the other approach, which is, hey, completely transform the core. Our CEO, Bob Salentic, often says that we are the best and largest commercial real estate services company. And our goal is to enable client outcomes that our clients cannot get anywhere else. So I would say we have no such identity crisis, if you will. We are squarely a commercial real estate services company. We also truly believe that in order to get those client outcomes that our clients cannot get anywhere else, we have to be absolutely the best at technology. And that technology has to be connected to those client outcomes. And so therefore my approach is really, if I think about my approaches, one is my approach back to the technology organization is, listen, we really need to deeply understand the business, the line of business priorities, the client outcomes that we're driving, the organizational outcomes that we intend to drive. And then let's think about technology in terms of how it enables those client outcomes, those organizational outcomes. My message to the to my overall line of business partners is, hey, listen, your client outcomes that you're trying to drive are not possible without enabling technology, without data, without insights. And therefore, I encourage them to, and I help them become a little bit more tech savvy so that we can truly be partners in this transformation journey that we are on.
Thank you very much. So you finished that question there on a message, which is good, because I'm going to ask for one more message. So that's the message, your internal message, if you like. But I'd love to finish off by just hearing from you. If you had one final message that you wanted to leave our audience with today, something that they can take away with them, what would that message be?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we started some of our conversation by saying, listen, we're going to see a massive acceleration. And I truly believe that this is a moment in time where we'll see a massive acceleration. A lot of CEOs across industries have come out and said, we've seen digital adoption could be a matter of several months or maybe even years in a compressed time frame. And I truly believe that when we look back at this moment in time, we will look back and say there was a distinct before and after moment. A moment where we'll say, remember how things used to happen before. And I hope that this will be that moment for the industry. Holistically, in digital transformation, a quote has become popular, which is that the future is already here. It's not evenly distributed. I believe that this will be a moment in time where we'll see an acceleration towards a little bit more of an even distribution, or at least I hope that that will be the case.
Thank you so much. A brilliant message to end on. Sandeep, congratulations on the new role. Good luck with it all. 1 month in, it'll be interesting to see how things look this time next year. And thank you so much for joining us here today.
Well, thank you for having me. This was a great conversation. And to everyone listening, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep driving your digitization.
Thank you.